welcome to the West Asia Post. I am your host, Ghadi Francis, coming to you from Beirut, Lebanon. And this is a new episode of WION's weekly show where we bring you all things new in this region. Donald Trump posted on his social media an AI-generated image of the future of Gaza as a Riviera of the Middle East. What is Donald Trump's plan for the Arabs and the Iranians? We will discuss all that, but first, let's take a quick look at what's making the headlines across West Asia. Without any regard to the actual rights of Palestinians to their land, or to what the Arab leaders have been saying and huddling over, Donald Trump once again comes back, this time posting a video, an AI-generated video, of what Gaza would look like after he takes over. It included also a golden statue of Trump himself. What is happening over there? We tell you more.
Palestinians in Gaza had a clear response to Trump's dystopian version of the enclave. They are clinging to the land of their ancestors.
The people are clinging to their land and their homeland because this is the land of their fathers and grandfathers, the land of messages, and this is the land in which the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque is located.
Hamas Political Bureau member Bassem Naim said Trump's futuristic version of Gaza does not align with the cultures and interests of Palestinians living in the enclave. US Democrats have also expressed their disapproval. Senator Chris Van Hollen called it an insane proposal in an interview, citing that Trump's redevelopment plan involves ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. The bizarre video has been shared by the official Instagram account of US President Donald Trump. It's an AI-generated video of his version of the embattled Gaza Strip. The video shows Trump and Netanyahu sipping beverages on a beach alongside images of skyscrapers and luxury yachts.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
Trump had said earlier this month that he wanted to take over the embattled strip and turn it into quote-unquote the Riviera of the Middle East.
Owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent.
Drawing backing from his ally Israel and strong criticism from Hamas and the Arab world. But this is the reality. There is death and devastation everywhere. Today in Gaza, there are mounds of rubble stretching as far as the eye can see. There are remnants of the longest and deadliest war. These are remnants of the longest and deadliest war between Israel and Hamas in their blood-ridden history. More than 46,000 Palestinians have been killed inside Gaza by Israeli attacks, according to health officials in the territory. Most of the dead are civilians, and the total represents about 2% of Gaza's pre-war population, or 1 in every 50. About 1.9 million people have been displaced since the war began. Palestinian medics say at least 6 infants have died from hypothermia in the last 2 weeks in the Gaza Strip.
Rainwater and sewage have entered our tent, severely affecting our lives. With the drainage system being destroyed, the cold weather, and the lack of clean drinking water, viruses are spreading rapidly. Today, I took my daughter to the hospital. The doctor told me that the unclean drinking water and the sudden drop in temperature are the biggest cause of her illness.
We managed to save some newborns, but unfortunately, others could not be saved due to hypothermia, or because they arrived late. Of the 9 cases admitted over the past 2 weeks, 5 lost their lives, 3 were successfully treated and discharged, and 1 still in the nursery on a respirator.
In the ceasefire that paused 16 months of war between Israel and Hamas, both have allowed a surge in humanitarian aid. There's been no central electricity supply in Gaza since the first few days of the war, and fuel for generators is scarce. Many families huddle on damp sand or bare concrete, hopeful that things will change for the better.
Iran's nuclear program is a controversy all across the world. Now, it is not a secret in West Asia that there is an anticipation for a strike. The US and Israel are planning to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. On the other hand, we tell you more.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Facing maximum pressure policy from Washington, Iran is gearing up its self-defense. The Islamic Republic is on high alert, following reports of a joint attack on its nuclear sites by the US and Israel. In an interview, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said Iran had enriched enough uranium to build a couple of bombs. Israel has warned its Western allies that time is running out. The UN nuclear watchdog has reported that Tehran has accelerated its production of weapons-grade uranium after the election of US President Donald Trump. The report by the Vienna-based International Atomic Energy Agency said that as of February 8th, Iran has 274.8 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%. That's an increase of 92.5 kilograms since the IAEA's last report in November. Iran describes the claims as irrational and outrageous. The Islamic Republic has ruled out the possibility of direct talks with the United States.
With respect to the negotiations on Iran's nuclear issue, Iran's position is very clear. We will not negotiate under pressure, threats, or sanctions. Therefore, as long as the US continues its maximum pressure campaign against Iran, direct nuclear talks between the two countries will be impossible.
در موضوع هسته‌ای تا زمانی که فشار حداکثری به این شکل خودش اعمال خواهد شد وجود نخواهد داشت.
Iran's foreign minister says Tehran will make decisions following consultations with its ally Russia and European counterparts in the foreseeable future. Russia's top diplomat, who visited Tehran in an effort to ease the rising tensions over Iran's nuclear program, believes diplomacy is still on the table.
We spoke extensively about the situation around Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on Iranian nuclear program. We are sure that the resource of diplomacy is still on the table. It should not be neglected. It should be exploited to the maximal efficiency without any threats and certain implications regarding use of force. We are determined to seek acceptable solutions to find a way out of the situation which has been created not by Iran, but by our Western colleagues.
The Islamic Republic has been performing drills since January and has only increased its navy, military and aerial exercise in recent days. Last weekend, Iran's army launched the large-scale Zulfikar 1403 joint military exercise, spanning the southern and southeastern regions and extending into the Sea of Oman. One of Tehran's most powerful forces, the Iran Revolutionary Guards, say the drills also feature the deployment of enhanced Karar drones, now equipped with air-to-air missiles for aerial interception. As Tehran moves to enrich its weaponry and protect its nuclear sites, there is increasing pressure on the Trump administration to impose measures that restrict Iran's nuclear growth. Trump's first term in office was marked by a particularly troubled period in relations with Tehran. In 2018, he unilaterally withdrew the US from Iran's nuclear deal with world powers, leading to sanctions hobbling the economy. He also ordered the killing of the country's top general. Under the original 2015 nuclear deal, Iran was allowed to enrich uranium only up to 3.67% purity and maintain a stockpile of uranium of 300 kilograms. The IAEA Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi has previously warned that Tehran has enough uranium enriched to near weapons grade levels to make several nuclear bombs if it chose to do so. Iran, however, maintains that its nuclear programs are only for research and peaceful purposes, with Washington's maximum policy, and Israel attacking its axis of resistance across West Asia. It is unclear whether Iran will revive its nuclear accord.
Syria in the turmoil. After Israel attacked southernmost Syria multiple times and basically destroyed Syria's weapons capacity, once again Israel's aggression continues on Syria, and the Syrians are in a national conference thinking about what and how to face that crisis. We tell you more in this report.
Syria is standing on shaky ground. Israeli strikes jolted residents in southwest Damascus on Tuesday. Israel said it had targeted Syria's military sites. The Israeli jets streaked across the southern province of Deira, just days after Prime Minister Netanyahu demanded the demilitarization of Syria's south.
We will not allow forces of the HTS or the new Syrian army to enter the territory south of Damascus. We demand full demilitarization of southern Syria in the provinces of Quneitra, Dara and Swaida from the new regime's forces. In addition, we will not tolerate any threat to the Druze sect in southern Syria.
The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said at least 2 people were killed at the headquarters of a military unit in Kiswe. Prompting Syrians to take up placards and chant slogans against the Israeli Prime Minister's demilitarization call.
The enemy has started escalating its rhetoric and boldness. Netanyahu's remarks did not surprise us, as we are familiar with his plans and strategies. Our protest today was necessary to demand that the United Nations compel the occupation to adhere to the 1974 disengagement agreement.
United Nations stated Israel's actions undermine regional stability.
We're obviously very concerned about the continuing violation by Israel of Syria's sovereignty and its territorial integrity, and of course, and the violations of the 1974 disengagement of forces agreement.
Hundreds of Syrians met at the presidential palace, where Syria's new regime spoke against Israeli incursions at the National Dialogue Summit.
The condemnation of Israeli incursion into Syrian territories, as it is a big violation of Syria's sovereignty and calling for its immediate and unconditional withdrawal, the refusal of the provocative declarations by Israel's Prime Minister, and calling the international community and regional organizations to take up their responsibilities towards the Syrian people and to pressure to stop the aggression and the violations.
The two-day National Dialogue Summit that aims to rebuild Syria's fragmented society met with its own problems. Despite the broad representation, the conference did not include armed groups like the United States-backed Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. The semi-autonomous Kurdish administration rejected the outcome of the conference, stating that the summit does not represent all Syrians. The new Syrian government faces the monumental task of rebuilding an economy devastated by 14 years of civil war. Added to its infrastructural and economic crisis is the problem of security, especially after Israel compared Syria to southern Lebanon. The conference signals a new chapter for Syria, but will the new government put an end to the threat on its borders?
Despite what has already happened in Gaza, Israel is not stopping. For the first time in over 20 years, the Israeli tanks have now occupied regions in the West Bank. WHO is concerned over the healthcare condition after attacks are also targeting healthcare centers in the Palestinian West Bank. People are afraid of a Gaza-like clearance that has already begun. We tell you more.
Ahead of the holy month of Ramadan, Palestinians in the occupied West Bank are bracing for forced displacements and bombings. For the first time in decades, Israeli tanks moved deeper into the Palestinian territory in what the Palestinian Authority called a dangerous escalation. Israel's defense minister said the troops will remain in parts of the territory for a year. Israel also said those who have fled from their homes cannot return.
Today, I have instructed the IDF to remain in camps that were cleared for the coming year, and we will not allow the return of residents, and we will not allow terror to return and grow.
Israeli Prime Minister echoed Katz's statement, asking the Israeli troops to fight with all means.
For the first time in tens of years in Judea and Samaria, we sent in tanks. This means one thing: we are fighting terrorism by all means and anywhere.
Israeli bulldozers have demolished large areas of the now virtually empty Jenin refugee camp and appear to be carving wide roadways through its once crowded warren of alleyways, echoing tactics already employed in Gaza.
They want to erase the name and the memory of the camps.
World agencies are scrambling to find solutions for the Palestinian territory.
We see the current flashpoints of violence. We have seen attacks on health since 2023, starkly rising in the West Bank. 737 health attacks since October 2023, 44 health attacks documented in the West Bank between the 1st of January and the 13th of January. There's almost 40,000 people displaced.
Israel launched the offensive in the northern West Bank on January 21st, 2 days after the current ceasefire in Gaza took hold, and expanded it to nearby areas. With fighting in Gaza and Lebanon on hold, Netanyahu has been under pressure from far-right partners to crack down on armed groups in the occupied West Bank. The UN says the fight is only getting better, and Palestinians in the region face the most dangerous phase in their history.
Still in Turkey, where alcohol has now become a problem, a lethal one. over 150 people died after consuming bootleg alcohol. Listen in.
Turkey is battling yet another crisis under Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's leadership. Skyrocketing taxes on alcohol and cigarettes have opened the market for bootleg alcohol. And Ankara is now having to deal with a rising number of hooch tragedies. Consumption of poisonous beverages has resulted in over 150 deaths in recent weeks. Poisoning from adulterated alcohol have become common as private production has exploded. Bootleg alcohol is often tainted with methanol, a toxic substance that can cause blindness, liver damage, and death. Experts say consuming just one glass can be deadly, and the effects become apparent 6 hours since consumption.
Once you have bootleg liquor, acid starts to circulate in your veins instead of a neutral blood pH. This damages every cell, nerve cell, cardiac cell, and kidney cell that encounters acid, and especially the eye nerves, which are the most sensitive.
Experts say there is no way to know if a drink contains methanol by its taste, color, or smell. The only way to find out is through laboratory tests. Turkish media says over 400,000 liters of counterfeit alcohol have been seized so far, while 900 people have been arrested for producing and selling it. Turkey's main opposition, CHP party, blames the crippling alcohol taxes imposed by the Erdogan government for the problem. A liter bottle of raki, Turkey's aniseed-flavored national liquor, costs around $35 in a country where the minimum wage is $600. Critics say such high prices are fueling the production of moonshine.
There is no such form of taxation of alcohol in any other country in the world. The tax on a product is 3 times the price of the product. This does not exist in any other country in the world. Unfortunately, in such cases, people are forced to turn to moonshine and fake alcohol.
Turkey was the world's number 5 grape grower in 2021, with over 1 million acres of vineyards. According to International Organization of Vine and Wine, only 15% of that area was dedicated to wine production. Reports say all alcohol producers and importers have to deposit over $1 million in collateral that can be seized if a fine is left unpaid under the regulation. Facing a multitude of financial burdens in the breweries, small vineyard owners and alcohol producers, desperate to repay off debts, are now producing poisonous alcohol.
Muslims across West Asia are preparing for the holiest month in Islam, Ramadan. While people in Palestine, Syria, Lebanon are recapturing their lives after a deadly war, in other parts of West Asia, like the Emirates or the Gulf, people are stocking up their houses with foods and sweets and other stuff. We tell you more in this report.
Despite the economic situation in Yemen, there is big turnout from people to buy Ramadan-related products, be it lanterns or other items, so they can welcome Ramadan.
This year Ramadan is unlike any before. People are grieving. Some have a son in prison. Others have lost a husband or a son. Most homes have been destroyed. There's no life in Jabalia.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news, and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I am your host, Radi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
In a show of jostling for power, a new Sudan coalition including political parties, armed movements, civil society leaders and the rapid support forces signed a founding charter aimed at establishing a parallel peace and unity government. This weeks after the Sudanese army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan announced he will form his own technocratic government. Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye